They told me, son, you're special. You were born to do great things. You know what? They were right.
Bioshock was one of those games that, from the day I saw it in trailers back in 2007, all the way until now, it blew me away. The idea of a dystopian city underwater with that combat, the weapons, the intimidation of fighting a Big Daddy, the characters, those unforgettable lines.
A time to live and a time to die. A time to build and a time to destroy!
This game was great. This is another new series I'm starting on this channel where I explore why I felt a good game was good and what exactly made that game good. It's one thing for me to say that I like the game's graphics or characters or gameplay, but let's try and take that a step deeper. What about those elements made them great? What elements made Bioshock stand out from other games that were also great in 2007? And most importantly, what's that golden nugget that we can take away from a great game that can be put into a game of the future? Obviously not a direct copy or anything like that, but what can we learn? What can we extract and mold into a new scene or a new idea? For the most part, I'll stick to talking about the good of an individual game. However, in certain cases where the differences between games aren't that major, or the games just feel better to talk about as like a collective whole, like I'm thinking of games like Gears of War, Uncharted, Dark Souls, so on and so forth, I'll make 1 or 2 videos going over all of them. My goal is to have fun nerding out over these games that we love while also seeing if we can learn anything about why we love it. For my time making content for Gears of War 4, I felt like my voice got really heard there when it came to Horde and Gears 5, so I want to see if we can try the same thing out for other games. Also, forgive me if I sound stuffy, it's because I am currently dealing with COVID-19. This series about why games rule is going to aptly be called Why This Game Rules. I mean, duh. And as already obviously pointed out from everything I said so far, we're kicking off this series with one of my favorite games of all time, Bioshock. Bioshock came out in August of 2007, and in a time that I thought was particularly odd. This was just after I made the decision to go Team Xbox, and I fell in love with the first Gears of War earlier in that year. Bioshock looked good, but I was also looking at how many games I was interested in for that year. Just check out this list of games, and also I hate myself because I'm gonna try and get game footage of all of these, or as many as I can. In the same year, we got the Orange Box, which included Portal, Half-Life 2 and its 2 spare episodes, Team Fortress 2, you have Call of Duty 4, Mass Effect, Halo 3, Rock Band, Uncharted 1, Army of 2, God of War 2, Guitar Hero 3, Guild Wars Eye of the North, Ratchet & Clank Future Tools of Destruction, Lost Planet, No More Heroes, Eternal Sonata, The Burning Crusade, Crysis, Crackdown, Rogue Galaxy, Super Mario Galaxy, Tekken 6, The Darkness, Time Shift. Oh my god! Like 2006 to 2009 felt like some insane years that kicked off a lot of franchises we know and love today. So I saw Bioshock, I liked what I saw, but I didn't know just how well it would do. And it came out in August, which I thought was strange at the time, but looking back, everything lined up perfectly for me to get this game. It was before the holiday season, right as we were going back to school, I had some spare money for it. There were a couple games in competition for my buck in that month, but nowhere near as much as the following months of that year. In hindsight, this was a smart move, like how I credit Red Dead Redemption for coming out in May of 2010 instead of like in the fall or whenever people are generally buying most of their blockbuster titles. But I got Bioshock and had the time to play it, and
oh god, you sick fuck, let me out of there!
What a freaking ride. Even replaying it again to record all this footage, it's so good. If you never jumped into Bioshock, to explain it quickly, the first one you play is a character named Jack. Not much is known about him, but he starts out in a plane crash that's out in the ocean. You swim up to a lighthouse that takes you down to an underwater city called Rapture. As you enter, you hear the voice of the founder of Rapture, Andrew Ryan, and he preaches about why he made the city and his ideals for it all.
A city where the artist would not fear the censor, where the scientist would not be bound by petty morality, where the great would not be constrained by the small.
The city's goal was to take the best and the brightest of humanity and give them a place to progress life forward. However, whenever you arrive, you see how this utopian world has turned into this absolute war zone, and you have to use the technology, the weaponry, and the biological enhancements called plasmids and tonics to fight your way back home. Or at least that's the initial premise. From this point on, I'm going to break down what I loved about the game, and that is going to involve some spoilers. If you haven't played the game yet, just go get the game. Like, it's not full price, it's worth full price. You can probably get it cheap on Steam or buy a cheap copy of the remastered version that comes with Bioshock 2 and Bioshock Infinite. Like, just go get it. Just go get it. Go play it. Have fun. And as I tend to do, I'm making a list of bullet points that I'll elaborate deeper on. So when it comes to what I love about Bioshock, the first thing that comes to mind is the marriage that it has between RPG elements and first-person shooter elements. As I've been making videos and I've been getting back into Gears, there's been this line that I keep hearing from Cliff Bleszinski. He was the lead game developer of the Gears franchise, and he mentioned this in a video for Gears 3 that
future of shooters is RPGs, and I was having this conversation with Randy Pitchford from Gearbox, and he's like, well, how come all games don't do this, right? Like, maybe the future of all games is RPG elements.
Bioshock was that, straight up, out of the gate. The game starts out by giving you a wrench and electro bolt, and you immediately start seeing the power between having one hand with magic and one hand with melee, or gun, or rocket, or bow. You have elemental impacts in-game, like when you zap someone with electro bolt and then they're in water, they're gonna get jacked up. Or when you use incinerate on somebody standing in a puddle of oil, they're gonna get jacked up. Or bees that are just continuously angry, and you give them someone to be angry at, they're gonna get jacked up. The game does a great job of adding strategy and preparation into a mix of needing skill and instinct to win fights, and they play off of each other really well. Like, you can be a god with a Tommy gun, nailing shots like it's nobody's business, but you're gonna want to set traps and decoys, rummage around in garbage cans and dead bodies for ammo and money, using your environment to get tactical advantage before jumping in with said Tommy gun and laying waste. Plus, of course, making sure you're using the right rounds, like you don't want to be using your armor-piercing rounds on stuff that aren't Big Daddies, and you don't want to be wasting anti-personnel rounds on bots and turrets. Reason number 2 why Bioshock rules, it's an enclosed open world, which I know that's a bit of an oxymoron, but I love worlds like this that you're good to run around, unlock different areas and whatnot, but it's not this huge, sprawling world that I can really get lost in. This may be more of a dated take for me as we get these huge sprawling worlds in games like Ghost of Tsushima or Horizon Zero Dawn, but I have a really easy time navigating this world of Rapture without needing to continually check a map. There's a warming comfort behind easily being able to navigate a world like the back of my hand. And whenever I talk about Dead Rising, I think I'm going to dig into this a lot more, because that world also does it mint. Fantastic. Again, could be the old man gets lost in control, because that's what we've been streaming lately, and I'm getting mad and I'm yelling at clouds, but I love the ease of navigation in Rapture. The third reason why Bioshock rules, the audio files. Okay, so building lore in games is a tricky endeavor, and the way Bioshock does it, specifically through audio accompanied by a picture, is a great way of doing it. Currently, at the time I'm writing this video, and well, since I'm recording it as well, I just finished streaming Gears 5 Hivebusters, and I'm partway through the game Control. Both games have pickups that involve a lot of lore, and they're basically snippets of information on the background and the story of the world, and you can just find them and pick them up anywhere in the world. However, the downside being that you have to sit there and read it. Even The Last of Us has audio recordings that you have to sit down and listen to as it's in your backpack. Obviously, it's easier to implement a screen of text for people to read as like they're relaxing after a hard day of work. I feel like that's when text files really work well. But when I'm streaming, I really don't feel like reading a whole bunch of logs to get my story. And even when I do read books and stuff like that, it's usually on Audible, which is not a sponsor yet, but yo, Audible if you want to talk. And I don't want to ask this to be a jerk, but like, who here is loving countless text logs in their games to get lore? Like, I get that it makes great YouTube channels for explaining Dark Souls lore, but other than that, Bioshock did log collections wonderfully by having them be audio logs you can easily play without digging into the menus, and you can listen to them while you keep doing what you're doing. Perfect, easy, I love that. I love it, it's great. And what was extra cool, in 2020 I listened to the book Bioshock Rapture on Audible. Again, not a sponsor yet, but Audible, please. Come on, help me out, man. The book digs into a lot of the setup of the world of Rapture right before the plane crash that starts Bioshock in the Bioshock game. You get a lot of insight from the characters established from audio logs. You get a lot of the story behind McDonough, Suchong, Tenenbaum, Sullivan, so on and so forth. And the game, through audio logs and a picture, gave me a face and someone to go off of going into the books, and the books helped me have more heart for the characters going back into the game. And God, my soul hurts for McDonough. Just, God. The concept of being able to walk and talk, essentially with those audio logs, gives me the benefit of immersing myself in this world without interrupting my gameplay experience to do it. More games could adopt this system and bring in video as well, which something is telling me that games like Dead Space did this already, but I gotta replay all of those just to be sure. And if you know any games that are really nailing that point just as well as Bioshock, just let me know, write it in the comments if you could. Reason number 4 on why Bioshock's so great, it has fantastic pacing. And I think this is one of the harder points for me to just go and, pinpoint down and make a guide on how to make better pacing in games. But most of my favorite games are fantastic at doing this, where I never want to put the controller down. The game makes me want to keep going and keeps a steady list of to-dos in my head. Even the slow moments away from the main story are fun because you'll find all the audio logs to listen to, you got little sisters and their accompanying big daddies to take care of, you got photography for, those sweet Instagram posts that'll help you hit splashes with a wrench better. You got a crap ton to hack and save you money and save you bullets by, using their bullets. All the while, all of it feels worthwhile. It doesn't feel like a meaningless task. It all feels like it's arriving at the main point of, we gotta go take down Ryan. To do that, I need to get more powerful. I can get more powerful by getting more tonics, more plasmids, more money to buy more bullets, medkits, Eve-hypos, more materials to build different types of ammunition. And then when you jump into the main story, the objectives chain themselves together really well to make it feel like there's a strong driving impulse to keep going. And a lot of times the main story objectives get you to explore a new area. This is where I give a really good shout out to Hephaestus, I can never pronounce it correctly. Whenever you're trying to make the big bomb to get into Ryan's office, it does a great job of having you explore a lot of the different parts of that area and get you familiar with it. So even though the area is a bit more complicated, they do a good job of getting you comfortable in that area. I'll go play a bunch of open world games and come back to you with a better description on that, but Bioshock got it down right. Reason number 5 why Bioshock rules, the Big Daddies. Big Daddies are the big, iconic bosses of the game, and everything about them screams, f*** around and find out. They have a drill for a hand or a giant rivet gun and grenades on top of being these big, burly tanks that shake the ground where they walk. There isn't a time when you fight a Big Daddy and feel bored about it. While the first Bioshock doesn't have much in the way of substantial boss fights, like you think of a Dark Souls, but they're a force to be reckoned with. I love that they're also a neutral party to you. They want you to stay away from them and their little sister and nobody will get hurt. But you know when you gotta do the deed, so you get prepared the best you can, you pray to whatever god you believe in, and you start that fight. Or it's even more fun when you have electric discharge on, you get hit by a meddling splicer that sends out a shockwave and it hits the Big Daddy. Then you're suddenly thrown into a boss fight, so you have no choice but to panic fight with no preparation. If you survive one of those though, you feel like a god. And I'm totally not saying this from experience of the playthrough I did to record all this footage. Bosses like the Big Daddy are fantastic. Activate them whenever you want, a challenge at nearly every level until the end when you are really strong against them. And they are just intimidating forces that walk around the open earth. They're just sitting there to put you into a grave. Reason number 6 why Bioshock rules, you get to have things your way. In line with talking about Big Daddies, I keep thinking about the different approaches you can take to killing Big Daddies, as well as then all the other enemies in the game. Bioshock does a great job of having several unique ways to tackle situations that all feel pretty uniquely different. Like, I remember when Uncharted 2 was talking about how you can handle situations differently. Like, you know, you can climb up here and use your long gun, or you can face them on the ground with your long gun, or you can be bold and use your pistol at various elevations and stuff. Like, I mean, it's fun, but nah, like, I love Uncharted, but my homeboy Bioshock here, though, you've got some real options. Seriously, I do love Uncharted, don't misconstrue that. I started off the game by taking out Big Daddies, by hacking a couple turrets, and I would be preying on the electroshock and the shotgun combo, but by the end of the game, I was running an electroshock, incinerate, and bees combo, just throwing all three of those out at once, a telekinesis if I can throw some gas tanks if there were any lying around, then switching to the incendiary bolts on the crossbow combined with heat-seeking missiles from the grenade launcher, and then wrap it up with some electric or explosive bucks to take something out. And that is, of course, if I was fighting the rosy Big Daddy with the rivet gun and not the bouncer Big Daddy, which for the bouncers, I love taking advantage of the fact that they bullhead charged at you. I'd set up a walkway with a couple different electric tripwires, a couple of proximity mines, and then prep any other weapons and plasmids to burst damage whatever health the poor guy had left from there. You would shoot it with a couple bullets, and you would see it get ready to charge, and it would just collapse right in front of you from how much you set up in traps, and just, oh, the satisfaction was unreal. This ties in with the first point I made about the RPG and FPS elements combining. This leads to a lot of options on how to take down enemies, and it's really, really satisfying. Each player of Bioshock plays it a little bit differently than the next person, and to this day, I don't think I've seen games outside of, like, you know, MMOs that make each person's playstyle feel that unique. Reason number 7 why Bioshock rules, its story structure. Now, of course, I'm no professional writer. I have a high school AP writing prowess, and that's about like all I got. But what I can appreciate about Bioshock's story is I never feel lost in exposition. It's all pretty straightforward, but still leaves room for a big twist. It feels like it follows the plotline structure really well of the rising tension, the rising action, the stakes keep getting higher as you keep progressing towards the main goal of taking out Ryan. You get on the green with his face, you have another build-up with Fontaine, and it feels like a satisfying ride all the way through. Given the end boss fight with Fontaine's a little underwhelming, but even then, it's still just a fun-as-hell ride. I guess the biggest takeaway I want to highlight from the story is the main driving factor of it, what pushes the character deeper into the world. Although I think that's something a lot of games are currently doing really well at the moment. At least I'm looking at 2 games I recently played, Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us Part 2, as great examples of building a driving narrative. The main point of what the characters are doing is well described, it's very simple, but there is so much more that happens in the process of that really makes it endearing. And the 8th and final reason why I think Bioshock rules is the vibe that it gives off. This may be a common element that I bring into each video in the series, just talking about how the game makes me feel. Bioshock does an amazing job of having a world dipped in like those Art Deco vibes of the 50s, having noir city feelings like you might have in a movie like Sin City, and like this dark dystopian world where things have just gone so wrong and things are so corrupt and evil here. All the while, with the choice you have with the little sisters, you feel the power of choosing to join in on the evil, or do you want to show the shreds of humanity? The feeling is wholeheartedly unique, but we see the choices and morality making big strides in games like Infamous or Life is Strange. We see the vibes of investigating what happened to a dystopian world in like a Bloodborne or a Dark Souls game, you know, kind of coming in the aftermath and just discovering what the hell happened here. And I love that Bioshock feels like a combination of several different elements and genres to make something that's totally unique, and I encourage developers to keep trying that. Overall, there's a reason why I consider Bioshock in my top 3 games I've ever played. So much about it is fantastic. I think we see current games doing a great job of hitting the variety of settings and aesthetic in games. Like, I'm looking at the variety of Assassin's Creed locales to like Ghost of Tsushima to Control being, you know, basically just inside a giant corporate building, but they still make that interesting. However, I would love to see more games take notes on how Bioshock tells its story and how it ties into the gameplay. The audio logs play such a big role in piecing together the lore of this story in a way that doesn't interrupt your gameplay. The Big Daddies give you boss fights that you can have on command, that aren't just a one-time thing. The combination of strategy and execution and combining genres, the easily digestible open world, that versatility in combat. Bioshock does such an amazing job of preventing my brain from flipping off a switch and just point me in the direction of the next gunfight and let me go. And it keeps me hooked into playing the game for hours on end while telling an awesome story in the process. And that is why this game rules. I think that's all I have to say about Bioshock, and let me know what you think about these videos. Do you have a favorite game in the franchise if you have played Bioshock? If you haven't played Bioshock, why? What games do you think absolutely rule? Just comment anything that's on your mind. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, do the like, sub, bell thing. It really does help me out a lot. You know, the whole YouTube algorithm thing, it just enhances all of that, I guess. I also have a few other channels I'm working on too, if you want other stuff of mine to check out. All the social media links will be in the description too. Until next time, stay thirsty, my friends. And I'm gonna try and keep healing from COVID.